Computer. Welcome, everyone. This is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, or related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today we're going to be talking about Do We Love Our Shadow? With our guest, Randy Scott. Randy, thank you so much for jumping on this show at such a late notice. So I really appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, my friend. It is a pleasure. I'm always happy to touch base with you as well as your audience, and glad that we get to see each other on a regular basis.
Yeah, right. It's pretty cool. So, for our listeners, you guys may or may not recognize Randy. This is the second time he's been on the show. And he looked a little different before because even when I ran into him at the gym, I really didn't recognize him, which I'm very ashamed for not doing that. However, he really changed up here, right? Less hair, the beard. I mean, so many things is like, ow. And I'm looking at him like, oh, frick, I know you. And he goes, it's Randy. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yes, I get to see this man every single morning. And I love your dedication, Randy. I really, really do. And we were talking a little bit about that before the show, about changing ourselves too, right? And how much that really helps us with pretty much everything. And to see you at the gym every single day, that I just love seeing that because to me that's dedication. And there's a lot of people there, right, that we really see on a daily basis. And some are
Yeah.
only there for a half hour. And it doesn't matter. They're there
Yep.
every single flipping day. And that says a lot.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's that commitment, and consistency. Just I don't know if this shows up, but this is the person.
That's it.
This is who I was like 7 months ago, and so yes, it is different.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
one of the things as we grow and progress in our lives, there's a saying, we die 1,000 deaths during our lifetime. And my last one happened back in September, where the Randy Scott that I knew um, died, and a new one was born. And I had a lot of it was very much somatic. It was very much around my body. My nervous system completely shut down. There were about 3 days where I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I couldn't move. I had to crawl to go to the bathroom, and and actually for 6 weeks before that happened, my nervous system or my body would twitch for about 10 to 15 minutes, and it would twitch in patterns. And so it was one of those things where it's like, okay, my body's doing something, and it's happening in a pattern, and it would happen in different patterns. So like I would lay that there to meditate or to go to sleep, and I would feel like boom, boom, boom. And you know how your muscles tense like when you
Yeah.
have like an electrical shock? It was doing that. And so it would go for like 3 times, and then it would stop and then do it. And then sometimes it would go for like 7 times. And so for about 6 weeks, my body was just doing that. And my mantra was basically I trust and surrender to my body with love, compassion, curiosity, and gratitude. And I just let it do its thing because I felt that there was wisdom happening with that twitching. And that happened for about 6 weeks, and then it went away. Then I went through this nervous system breakdown, and then it felt like my body was being put back together. And for like a week and a half, I felt like I was driving a different body. And the thing that was most noticeable was my vision, the way things looked to me. And so I gained a very different appreciation for my body. And if you think about it, think about the wisdom that a body has when you get a male and a female together, and you have a sperm and an egg, and they create a zygote cell. That zygote cell has all the information to create an entire human being. That's a lot of wisdom.
Gosh, I never looked at it that way. Yes, that is so true, right? And
Yeah,
just something so tiny.
absolutely. And so when you
Hmm.
start researching into your DNA and you start researching into the magnificence and especially like conscious and subconscious and some of these things that we'll dive into with the shadow, they say that the subconscious runs like 95% of our day-to-day living. And at first, when I was thinking about that, I was like, I feel helpless. If my subconscious is running everything, that kind of sucks, because I want to be in
Yeah.
charge. We love the illusion of control, and so I wanted to have that. But as I started peeling back the onion, if you think about, we have an autonomic nervous system, and that controls our heartbeat. It controls our breathing. It controls our digestion, our body, the way it just heals itself naturally. All that stuff we don't even have to think about, and that happens. That is really good stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have all this amazing subconscious programming, right? So, like when you got up to go to the gym, did you have to think, okay, I'm going to take a left step, I'm going to take a right step, I'm going to take a left step just to walk? No,
No, no, it just
it's
happened.
just yeah, it's just we create an intention. It's like I'm going to get up and go to the gym, and like the vast majority of that just happens. Even jumping into your car because you and I have driven for so long. It's just a program. You're just running a program for the most part, right? You create the intention. It's like I'm going to go to the gym, and then all this programming starts running, and it's very beneficial programming. And so the stuff that we get to work on if we choose is actually the disempowering, fear-based subconscious programming. And a lot of times that's referred to as the shadow.
Wow. I don't even know where to go with that one because that's something that I mean, you just taught me, right? I didn't even look at it that way because I don't know. I think our shadow can teach us a lot,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I've only I mean, the way you put it is something new for me. However, I've heard stuff like in some coaching things that I've gone to and different things like that about if we do turn and look at our shadow, it's almost kind of like looking at the message in the mirror as well.
Yep.
To me, it's almost the same type of thing, right? You look at yourself in the mirror, you look in your eyes, there's a message there. What is that message? As well as there's a lesson behind everything that happens in your life, right? Our lives are orchestrated as long as we let go of the wheel and let the higher power run us, right? It's
Absolutely.
when we take hold of that steering wheel when we start messing things up, it seems like it. And I've done it the majority of my life, which
Yep.
all of us have pretty much, right? Until
Yeah.
one day we look down and we look at our shadow. Because I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong here with how you're saying our bodies and things are. So we can look at our shadow, and if we stand still, that's all it is, right? It's just something that's dark that looks like us or has a figure of us that's just standing there. We
Okay.
can determine how that shadow moves, right? We can move our hand or move our neck or whatever we can do.
Yeah.
To me, we can do the same with our life, right? If we don't like how that shadow's sitting, we can do whatever we want to make that shadow do exactly what we want it to do.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, a big portion. So just for clarity's sake, on when a lot of people are talking about shadow, you were talking, the actual physical, like the sun's
Okay.
behind you, that there's a shadow. If we, for the sake of the discussion, we all have this stuff that we're proud of, right? We all have this beautiful, we have the highlight reel that we post on social media, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and all of us have this box in the basement that we really don't like to talk about. And like we were saying before we jumped on here, The vast majority of it is trauma based. And so we hide it away. And it's almost like we think we're the only one with a box in the basement. And yet everybody has the box in the basement. And until we can learn to love that, so if you think of the word integrity, right, it means to be whole, right? So integrity in general is your thoughts, your words, your deeds are all in alignment. So if you are loving, your highlight reel and not loving your box in the basement, you're fractured as a human being. And a lot of times it's the trauma and those type of things. Gabor Mate is amazing, and the stuff he talks about around trauma and addiction. And when we look at both addiction and suicide, it's an attempt to escape, and really it's an attempt to escape ourselves. It's an attempt to escape that box in the basement.
Yeah.
And so when we learn to love that, right? When I can say, I love the amazing Randy and I love the asshole Randy, because we're all shades of everything.
Yes.
And, and so when we can learn to love that, then we can be powerful. Then we're integral, we're in integrity because we love both the light and the shadow of ourselves. And when we can do that, that's when we're in power. And it's when we can have more compassion for other people.
Well, again, that's well put. Yeah, and that is so true, right? Because and the reason why, just so our listeners know, the reason why I'm agreeing with Randy so much on this is because it's what's happened to me in my life, right? The past 14 years, almost 15 years now that I've been working on myself and getting to that point. And I tell you what, it's a lot of work and it's still work that I'm doing. I'm not done with it yet, right? I still haven't reached the point, and I don't know if I ever will. However, I'm getting closer to the top of the mountain just so I can get closer to a bottom of another one, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a never-ending spiral. We a lot of times what happens is we learn the same lesson at deeper and deeper levels because we just become deeper and deeper people.
yeah. Yeah, because I have a lot more compassion for individuals than what I did 14 years ago.
Yeah,
And it's because of the experience and what I've gone through in my life and really doing some deep soul searching and wanting to figure things out of not wanting to live the same type of life that I was living.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. There are a couple things that come to mind as we're talking about the shadow. Um, there's a saying that we work in the dark to serve the light. And to me, that's been a very powerful thing. When I started Empowerment 8 years ago, I came from executive corporate background in marketing, and I figured that I would be coaching executives, for all my life. And the universe was like, "Oh, cute little human, that's cute." And I was directed into teen suicide, and then I was directed into addiction recovery, where I lived in a sober living house doing research for a book. And as I looked back on those things, those are very dark subjects. Those are very dark topics. Um, and so when I think about working in the dark to serve the light, um, that's the place to be able to do it. And it's the same thing with ourself. Another thought that came up is the saying, love the fear and the fear will disappear,
Mm, I love
right?
that one.
Yeah, because what happens, so here's the interesting thing is fear is made up, right? Fear is made up by the amygdala, by our lizard brain. And danger is real and fear is imagined. And I mean, we feel it, right? There is no doubt we feel fear. And what we do is most of the time we'll create a story about the future, like we can tell the future.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's a worst case scenario, and we create this fear. And excuse me, in our life, if we can become a fear explorer, then we can let those things go. And that box in the basement, the shadow, are the things that we get to explore and become friends with.
Yeah. You know, and Randy, that is so true, right? There's some recovery centers out there here in the Salt Lake Valley that we think highly of here on the other side of addiction, right?
Uh-huh.
There's places like TOSA, the other side academy, as well as
Yep.
Red Barn, and they do things different there. And I've sat in their little circle. You know, they did a little trial thing on me when I was there a few years ago to speak. And I
Uh-huh.
tell you what, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's no piece of cake, right? I mean, I was being accused of things and things was being thrown at me that it was just a sample of what they do. And I had beads of sweat forming up on my forehead within seconds, right?
Yeah.
They're getting into that box. I mean, seriously, they are forcing you to go down in that basement and open that son of a gun up. And
Yeah.
that's so hard to do because of that fear, right? Because we know what's inside that. And I
Yeah.
love how you say, love the fear and the fear will disappear. I For those of you that are out there that are spiritual, fear is the opposition's greatest strength. And when we're allowing that fear to take over, it's keeping us from really the direction that we need to go. And again, that's just my version of it. That's how I see it, right? And going through everything like what you went through, how it led you to where you need to be, you know, it to that
Yeah.
light. That's exactly what's happened in my life the past 14 years, right? I went from my weekend addiction to my wife's or ex-wife's battle with addiction. And all that was some dark, dark shit. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's led me to the light that I'm at today, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
realizing it at that time during that journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting, it's there's a story about the two wolves. It's a Native American story, and um, this kid is sitting by his grandfather at a fire, and grandfather says there are two wolves inside of you, and one is love and one is fear. Um, and and you know the grandchild, he's like, which one survives? And it's like the one you feed,
Yeah.
right? And what you focus on expands. And so, if you think about it, in our physical body, it's head versus heart. And when we can create an alignment, and when we can lead with our heart, use our head, but not the fear aspects of our head, because we've progressed so much since the amygdala was created, with the prefrontal frontal cortex and all these other portions of the brain, that if we choose and we let our heart lead and we lead with love, it actually is what our true essence is, right? If you look at a newborn baby, that baby is just love,
Yeah.
right? It's love. And so that's what our essence is. And then, like the layers of an onion, we learn fear. We learn different types of fear. We create these stories, we create these programs, we create all these things, and so this onion is covering up, and basically it's the shadow is covering up that essence of who we are. So,
Mm.
especially at our age, it's more an aspect of letting go and unlearning than it is of learning.
Yeah.
right? It really is. When I so I used to think of like raising my vibration like um, climbing stairs. It's like I've got to do this work to climb these stairs, and that's how I raise my vibration. And one day I had a meditation, and it was a hot air balloon. And what is the nature of a hot air balloon is to rise. That's just its nature. And what keeps it down are the ballasts, the weights. And in our life, those weights are those fear-based programs and those fear-based stories. And as soon as we can face those fears and be with them, then they have no power over us. And it's just like cutting those ballasts off and we naturally rise.
Yeah. I'm glad that you put it that way. I have someone who I spoke with about a month ago, and she came from a pretty dark place, right? And you know her boyfriend, and it's Cap, right? So we
Okay.
know
Yeah.
Cap.
Yeah.
And as she was talking to me, she's telling me about some stuff, and I said, you know what? I'd love to have you on my show. I think really what you just shared with me needs to be heard from a lot of people. And we were chatting yesterday through text, and she was telling me now her show still it's still like 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away.
Okay.
That fear was kicking in. She was going in
Mm,
panic mode. I mean, seriously, she was starting to have an anxiety attack because
mm,
she wants to, what she's going to share, she wants to do justice for the people that she's talking about, right? It means the world to her because she lived in that world. And you guys
right.
will know when the show comes up what I'm talking about. I don't want to talk too much about it now because I don't want to spoil it, right? Especially
Right.
for her. I don't want to spoil it for her. And she was saying, that having such an amazing boyfriend with Cap is he's an amazing man. I love the dude so much. And he's
Yep.
got a lot of knowledge. He's gone through a lot of stuff himself, and he helped her with some breath work. And she's texting me, and I'm sharing what I know, right? I'm sharing some things and letting her know everything's going to be okay. And about 2 hours later, actually it was about 3 hours later, she texts me back and she goes, I cannot believe how flippin' amazing I feel right now. I went from about ready to lock myself in a closet to where I feel so light right now. And it was because of Cat and apparently a few things that I said to her, right? That got her really thinking she's the one, her head is what's causing that anxiety, that
Yep.
fear. Once
Yep.
she learned how to bypass that, she just started floating, just like how you
Yeah.
used the hot air balloon,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when we spend so much time in our minds and in the future and the past, instead of just really just being with what actually exists, and that's the present moment, the only thing that exists.
Yeah,
And, the present moment, everything's okay, right? I
yeah,
mean, there may be some huge thing that I get to take care of, a day from now, or an hour from now, or a year from now. That's not my problem right now. That's future Randy's problem. And he's going to be a lot smarter than I am, and he can take care of it. And I don't have to worry about it right now.
yeah,
And being in that place of presence, because we like to create stories like you were talking about. Whatever this anxiety was, I would imagine, was a story she made up about the future, about how are these people going to look at this, or how are these people going to, and she has no idea. She, as far as I know, she's not a mind reader. She can't tell the future. So it's just making stuff up. And we do that all the time.
yeah. Yeah, we do, and as we go through these steps, it gets easier and easier, right? We start putting it in another box, right?
Yeah.
We're taking it from one box and we're putting it in another one to where it's okay. It's an okay box, right?
Yeah.
And I re I remember years ago I won an award and I got called up on stage, probably 130, people out in the crowd. And I've shared this a few times. I'm up there at the podium and I have to say a few words and I could feel my pant legs hitting my legs, right? It's like, and it's because my legs were shaking so bad because I'm looking out in the
Yeah.
audience and I'm seeing hundreds of pair of eyes on me.
Yeah.
And my head's going, oh, I wonder what they're thinking. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I hope I don't say anything wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
this, did I say that right? I mean, literally as I'm talking, I'm still running through all these scenarios in my head, and it was that fear. And
Yeah.
now I get up, I have butterflies. However, I played softball for years and I always got butterflies before softball game, always. No matter,
Mhm.
I mean, I've played hundreds and hundreds of games,
Yep.
tournaments, all kinds of things. I always got the butterflies, but once it gets going, the butterflies disappear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I get up and I do this public speaking and my pant legs are no longer hitting my legs, right? I'm up
Yeah.
there, my whole outlook, I guess, the fear of it is gone because I know now
Right.
there's nothing to be afraid of. I am there for a purpose. I am there to share a message. That's all that matters to me. It doesn't matter
Yep.
what so and so over here's thinking, or they're like, well, his English sucks. He should have used this word, or none of that's in my
Yep.
head anymore because now my focus is elsewhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. And this goes back to that concept of love versus fear. If you think about both anxiety and excitement, they're very similar um, emotions,
Yeah.
and yet anxiety comes from fear, and excitement comes from love. And one of the things that has helped me and it's kind of what you said with public speaking is, first of all, it's not about me, right? We get to be a vehicle, we get to be a vessel to share a message. It's not about me.
Yep.
And when I get up and speak, I love for some reason I can connect with people in the eyes. There is something about eyes that when they say, it's the window to the soul. And I will focus on one person and it's like, this message is for you. And this is all. And if other people get some benefit out of it, great. It's not about me. This is about you. And when I focus on you, I can't focus on me.
Yeah. Yeah, very well put. The same thing happens with me too. It's the eyes. Yeah, that's where the connection comes from. And I
Yeah,
love that you put again, it's not about us, right? We've gone through our journey for a reason. And again, this is just my version of it. I'm out there to do God's work. I'm out there to share a message.
yeah,
And he put me through so much crap, but he did that to make me strong, to be able to share that message the way it needs to be shared. And I'm still learning, right? It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
it's not done. Wipe your hands
Right.
and you're done. I'm still learning. I'm still going through crap. However, it's increasing the message
Yep.
by going through that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. There are so many parallels in our individual life. We have this hero's journey, right? And the hero's journey, we go through these trials, and then we come back out a changed person. We change the world, and it's something that's shown through all kinds of movies and books and everything else. And like when we talked about the two wolves, it's that fight between the heart and the head, between love and fear. And then when we are like in the public speaking, it's really the conflict between our higher self and our ego,
Yeah.
right? When we're worried about ourself, that's ego. When we're coming from a place of fear, that's ego. And so it's this internal battle that we have. Who are we going to put in charge? Who are we going to put in the driver's seat? our higher self or our ego. And it was interesting. About a month ago, when I was at the gym, gym's become my one of my amazing meditation spiritual places. And I had been going about 2 months, and it's like, okay, why am I here? Really, why am I here? What am I doing? And I let my ego talk for a minute, right? It was like, well, you want to look good, you want to look like Al,
Oh,
you know, you want to be in shape, you want to do this and that and the other thing. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, let my ego have its voice. Um, then when I went on the elliptical machine, I had my eyes closed and I tapped into my higher self and I said, okay, why am I really here? And I got three very clear messages. One is to raise your vibration. The second was to focus my energy. And the third was to be love, to be that vessel for love. So I'm going to the gym for those reasons. And you know that when we start to listen to our higher self, we can actually have compassion for our shadow, for our ego, and yeah, it just allows us to be more integral when we can love all of ourselves, right?
yeah. Yeah, that is so true because we again, this is something that I've learned really only the last couple of years, in all honesty. We cannot resonate love for others, raise vibrations for others if we're not doing it for ourselves first, right? And it's not
Absolutely.
selfish. I used to think that was selfish, right? I
Yeah.
used to think, well, if I'm doing something for me, I'm selfish for doing that.
Yeah.
And even in the depths of my ex-wife's addiction, and I decided to fast, right? And here's some things, and the forgiveness of stuff, right? And gosh, I realized I could not forgive her because I couldn't even forgive myself.
Yeah.
So how can we help others? How can we love others, truly love others, if we can't even do that for ourselves? Because we have to have it within sight of us first, right?
Yep.
And I know this is just one of the many things that I love about being a part of the recovery community, because the majority of those individuals, they get it, right?
Yeah.
They have felt so much guilt, so much shame, and about themselves for so long, and to be able to basically dig all those slivers out one by one, painful, all of them are painful, to be able to get them completely out and to be who they are today. I mean, I get emotional sometimes thinking about it because of all the amazing people that I have met. Man, that's true
Mhm.
love, right?
Yeah.
And every time I get around them, that energy is just freaking amazing. That's why I love being around it, because they've done the work. And not
Yep.
saying that they don't still get slivers, because we all do. That's still part of our life, right? We're still going to
Yeah.
continue to get slivers. However, to
Yep.
now have the tools and know how to dig those damn things out is a huge plus,
Yeah.
because we didn't have that tool before.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. When I was living in the sober living house and talking to those guys, um, I was there for about a year. Almost all of them had come out of prison. They had just barely come out of prison. Drugs of choice were meth and heroin. And as I sat and listened to their stories and what they went through and the trauma they endured, a lot of foster home type stuff. Um, I just thought if I had gone through that kind of stuff, I would be self-medicating with meth and heroin as well,
Yeah.
you know. And so the compassion that I had for them, um, it just shifts everything. It really shifts the energy of everything. Um, And to your point, when they learn to love themselves, that shifts everything for them. It really does.
Yeah, that's when the healing actually begins, the true healing, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can go through all the freaking coaching classes, you can read all the self-help books you want.
Yep.
However, until that shift happens inside here,
Yep.
yes, those are good tools to have, and yes, it is helping you. However, it's not the exact thing that you need to get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a pathway from slavery to mastery to release. And what's interesting about that, so if we look at an alcoholic, for example, an alcoholic can, if you're in your alcoholism, you're a slave to the alcohol. If you manage that where you're not drinking everything, where you master that, you know, um, like I know people that have gone to like AA meetings, every week for like 15 years. And for me, it's it's serving them, but it's another form of attachment, right? Instead of being addicted to alcohol, they're addicted to AA meetings. But when we do that inner work, right? And I think this is where you're going to. When we do that inner work where we learn to love our shadow completely and accept ourselves, then there's nothing to run away from.
Yeah,
And then that's when you get into the aspect of release, right?
yeah,
And the same thing, um, simple example is forgiveness, right? Um, say you do something to me and it just pisses me off. And and so it's like, ooh, I'm just angry. So then I'm a slave. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to be the big man and I'm going to forgive you because you did A, B, C. And it's like, okay, now I've got mastery. And where release comes in is who is responsible for my emotions? Me.
you, yeah,
100% me. Doesn't matter what you do. Does not matter what you do. I am responsible for my emotions. So if I get angry at you because I'm angry, I'm giving away my power. So when I take 100% accountability for my emotions and realize it has nothing to do with you, there's nothing to forgive. So you're
yeah,
in the place of release.
yeah. Very well put. It's like with what you just said, I'm picturing things as um it's like letting the cat out of the bag, right? I have a friend who was having some issues with some things, and some people was causing a lot of crap. And she spoke to another friend of ours, and our friend said, best thing for you to do is let everything out of the bag. Because once you do, no one can hold that carrot over your head again. And we can do that with our own self work, right?
Yep.
Not just for others. However, we let everything out of the bag, we can no longer hold that against us.
Yeah.
We're done with it, basically, right? We're washing our hands of it.
Well, it takes away the power.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes away the power. There's a movie that Eminem did called 9 Mile, I think it was, and it's like these street rappers and they're having these
Yeah.
rapping competitions, right? And at the very end, and Eminem came from this trailer park, rough life, blah blah blah, and in the end, he went first, and he basically did that. He says, this is the shitty life I have. This is what this is who my mom is. This is what I do. This is and it took all the power out, so that the other dude, couldn't do anything to disrespect him because he already just let it all out,
Yeah.
and that's it, and and who was it? Deepak Chopra um, talks about being independent of the good or bad opinions of others. And it's such a powerful place to be because if you can say, Randy, you're awesome, cool. And if you also say, Randy, you're an asshole, it's cool. Because both of those things are true at
Hmm.
specific times, right? Um, my youngest son is 23. And if he were to come to me and say, you're a terrible dad, I mean, we have a great relationship, but if he were to come to me and say, you're a terrible dad, I would be like, tell me more. Because I divorced his mom when he was like 2 years old. I was traveling a lot. There were a lot of there could be a lot of reasons why he could validate that position, and it's fair.
Yeah.
And I'm amazing, Dad, right? And so if we stop looking at things in black and white and say we're all of it, and it's okay because it is going through the difficult times in our life, going through those challenging times, making mistakes, right? That's how we learn. We learn more from the mistakes we make than when everything's hunky dory.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. I love this whole conversation. I mean, gosh, we can learn we learn so much from ourselves, right? I mean, I mentioned earlier that, we can invest in ourselves, right? We can
Yep.
spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars going to different types of coaching classes, Tony Robbins and all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we can invest in all kinds of books and audibles and different things, which again, they're all great tools. However, the main tool is really coming from us. I
Yep.
remember reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Uh-huh.
And, he's talking about, the money that he invested to go to this real estate thing. And he didn't
Mm-hmm.
have it. And he did whatever he could to come up with this money to go to this real estate thing. And he went to it. And as of like a lot of places, right? I'm not one who really cares for the shish boom ba type events where they get everybody so freaking riled up. And when you're there,
Yeah.
your energy levels at 1,000 knots and you're all pumped up. 2 days after you leave it, you're back to where you was when you walked in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's all within. And Robert said the difference between me and other people that took that same class, I did the work.
Yep.
Because hundreds of other people took it and they're not as successful as he is.
Right.
Again, it's doing that work, right? And how many of us, hell, we'll go back to the shadow. How many of us stop our shadow short, right? Where
Yeah.
we go back to that fear, we go into that self-doubt, we go back into that box of BS,
Yep.
right? Where we're going, okay, we're not good enough. No, we can't do this. Oh, this is too hard. Oh, this is taken away from my TV time. This is a taken away from this. We start coming up with all these reasons to justify us not wanting to go to a different place.
Yeah.
And again, it all starts from within here,
Yep.
right? You start not allowing that stuff to stop you. And I'm big on if it scares the hell out of you,
Do it.
that's the reason why you need to do it. No
Absolutely.
matter how
That.
scared you are, because that is your sign you need to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is. It's the ballast on the balloon, right? Become
Yeah.
a fear explorer. Instead of being afraid of the fear, right? Because that'll paralyze you. Instead of being afraid of the fear, love the fear will disappear. So lean into it. Lean into it. And that's what's fun.
Yeah.
And for me, you were talking about all these different ways to gain knowledge. And for me, whenever I take in new knowledge from a book or coach or anything like that, it's like, okay, what is true for me? Right? We all have our own compass,
Yeah.
and it's unique to us. We have a soul print that is unique to us. And so is it true for me? And one of the ways that I do things like that is I life hack, right? I experiment on myself to see if A, B, or C is true for me. And I've done that with so many different things, with so many different products. Um, even so 3.5 months ago when I started going to the gym. I changed my diet completely because I was eating 500 calories a day for like 3 years, and that was a life hack that I just continued. And so I switched that because I tapped in, and my body was wanting more because I was doing more. Changed my sleeping patterns, um, and then I added some other things that I had life hacked before, but haven't kept up with. So sun gazing is something that's an ancient practice from the Vedics and the Egyptians. So sun gazing is something that I implemented again, where you stare at the sun for 20 minutes. You get direct electromagnetic energy from the sun. And then there's some other things like red light therapy and methylene blue and all these other things that affect the energy that go into the mitochondria, right, of our cells. And so these are part of the life hacks that I'm doing. And that way I know what's true for me, right? Because like you could ask anyone in the US and they know eat right, exercise, right? I mean, but how many of us do it? How many of us actually put that into practice? You know, I see people at the gym, and I have seen them like all the time, like I see you. But the people that I admire are those people that are overweight or that are, a lot older or whatever, and they're just there and they're showing up, and man, just mad respect for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough where I haven't been overweight or had to deal with health issues or anything like that. Um, but to see people that they're showing up for themselves, and that's the thing. You know, it's you're talking about. You can't pour from an empty cup, so you get to invest in yourself first, and that's just a great example of investing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a start, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that's where I started after I lost my job, right?
Okay.
I'm 198 pounds. I spent every weekend for 8 years drinking and snorting cocaine, and I totally lost myself.
Yeah.
And when I decided I had to figure out who I was as an individual and where to go, for me, someone who always cared about staying in shape and looking good, that's the first place I started, right? I remember jumping on the mountain bike that I had just gotten for Christmas
Yeah.
and riding around the block. That's all I did was ride
Yeah.
around the block. And
Right on.
before I knew it, a few months down the road, next thing I know, I'm doing 3 miles. Then a little bit down the road, I'm doing 5 miles. Then I was doing 6 miles, right? Again, it's that invested in myself. And that's really what started that journey. And,
Yeah.
and it is for some people going to the gym, and some is
Yeah.
just picking up a book or listening to an audible or a podcast, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different tools out there
There
that
really are.
sometimes you have to search to find, right? It's like those who are in recovery. Some people
Yeah.
go to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different recovery centers. However, there's all of a sudden
It
something
clicks.
that clicks for them.
Yep.
First off, they never gave up, right?
Yep.
They could have gave up after three. They could have gave up after one and said, this doesn't work. Why am I even trying? You
Yeah.
know, you continue to search until you find what it is that you're looking for that's feeding that soul for you, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing. You're feeding that soul to
Yep.
help you look at life a little differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a coach that I really admire. He's really around creating a lifestyle that supports, and he's very much a family man. And he was talking about, he's like, mindset is everything, and your mind is the software that runs the hardware. And I've invested in software for years and years and years and years. And this was before I started going to the gym. And the thing that showed up is, it's like I have got the latest and greatest software, and I'm running it on a 15-year-old computer. Because I mean, when the weather's good, I go out once or twice and I hike for a couple of hours. I love to be in nature, but I wasn't really stressing and pushing my body. And so my hardware was like, a 15-year-old computer trying to run the latest and greatest software. And so when I got that message that the reason why I'm at the gym is to raise my vibration, to focus my energy, and to be loved, it's like, bottom line is, your body is getting upgraded to handle the software that you've already installed. And it was interesting because for 3 years, I mentioned that I was eating 500 calories a day, and I did that for 3 years. And I would tap into my body. It's like, is this right? And it's like, yeah. And then when that shifted, when I started working out and everything, and I got another visual in meditation, and it's like, you can push water or energy through a straw, a garden hose, or a pipeline. And it's like, you wanted to push it through a hose. You were doing 500 calories a day. Great. That's exactly what you needed. Now you want to go and push energy through a pipeline. We're up in your game. And so I'm eating more, I'm working out, I'm doing all these things because I'm playing a new game. And that's what's fun about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can always switch games.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what, I
Nope.
mean, we're in control. We're in the driver's seat. And again, we cannot do it alone, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer of that. We have
Yeah.
to have something greater than us, a higher power, whatever you feel like that is, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, we can change the game anytime that we want. Because I've heard people all my life, I'm just as guilty of it too. It's like I'm sick of my freaking life. I'm tired of it. But yet
Yeah.
I got up every day and did the exact same thing every single day.
Yeah.
And it took me losing a job of 24 years that literally took that 2x4 and knocked me upside the head and went, okay, something's got to change here. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I was someone who loved my job for 24 years, seriously, up until about the last 6 months I was there, where
Uh-huh.
things kind of started really going crazy. But I loved going into work every day. I really loved my job. However,
Yeah.
I wasn't loving me, right? My
Right.
ego
Yeah.
was running my life.
Yeah.
In all honesty, my ego was running my life. And
Yeah.
it wasn't running it in a good way. It's like putting unleaded gas in your diesel, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. You
Yeah.
can do it, but the results aren't that great.
Yeah, absolutely. Randy, gosh, we're coming up on the hour here. Is there anything that you'd really like to share with our listeners? Something that just kind of resonates with you pretty powerful right now? Or yeah, you got something that's just coming to mind?
Well, um, the two things that come to mind right now are, you are the expert in your own life, right? I mean, we are bombarded by so much information and all these people that believe they're right or that think they're right. And so we are the experts in our own life. So that's the first thing. Trust yourself, right? Trust your heart, trust your gut. Um, if somebody says something, ask yourself, okay, is that true for me? And the second thing that shows up is each one of us is unique and each one of us is needed. The example that I love to give is Al, you have your very specific puzzle pieces, right? And I have my very specific puzzle pieces. And if you think of like 1,000 piece puzzle, 1,000 pieces are there, and each one only goes in one place. And we have our own little puzzle pieces, and we're down here at the level of the puzzle. And sometimes we really don't know where that puzzle piece goes. And when we can trust in the master puzzle maker that has this vision of exactly what the puzzle is, and he can see that, um, then the what and the why are up to us, and how that's placed and when that's placed is up to the master puzzle maker. But without each of our individual puzzle pieces, that puzzle is incomplete. And so each one of us is needed in this game of life.
I love that analogy. Really, that is an amazing analogy because really that's what we're all doing, right? We're all putting this puzzle together,
Yep.
all of us. And sometimes we take a step backwards, sometimes maybe it falls off the table and ruins everything we've already put together, and we got to go back and put those
Yeah.
pieces back, especially those who are battling with addiction, right? That's a tough puzzle to put together because those pieces have been jumbled for so long, and a lot of them are missing. Sometimes we got to go search for them, right? Maybe it fell off the table and went under a couch or went between cushions or yeah, I love that.
And
I'm gonna have to add that into one of my talks.
yeah, some of the prettiest puzzle pieces that we have are in that box in the basement. Because when we can make friends with that part of ourself and we can heal that part of ourself, then we can show others how to do the same. And
Yeah,
that's a beautiful puzzle piece.
yeah. How many of us are too scared to pull that piece of puzzle out of that box, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, right? We give ourselves a reason, one reason after another. And I've just seen that recently. Anyway, I could be wrong. However, this is just how I've seen something that's happened with somebody that I know, right? It's
Yeah.
always questioning, always questioning, always questioning. And finally it was done, but that those puzzle pieces are still in that box, right? They
Yep.
allowed that fear, or they allowed the past or the trauma or whatever to keep them from getting that and putting it in place just to see what's going to come of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look, especially in like addiction recovery, some of the most powerful advocates are people like you that have been there, right? You've taken, I mean, you really didn't need to tell anyone that you were addicted or you went through all that. You didn't have to, but that's a part of your shadow that you made friends with, and now it's become a shining puzzle piece for you.
Yeah. Well, and it took someone basically slapping me in the face to get me to realize it, right? Because again, I didn't for a long time, even as I started this show, right? I didn't share any of that for a long time.
Yeah,
And if it wasn't brought to light, I probably still would be in that same box,
yeah,
So yeah, sometimes again, we got to listen to that outside source too and really contemplate it and think about it. And I tell you what, it was the biggest blessing for me, biggest
it is.
blessing for me.
Yep. Yeah, when we can love that box in the basement, dance with our demons, and you know, celebrate being an asshole. It's okay. We
Yeah.
all have that.
Yeah, and
right?
we all
And
have one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And so then it's like no one can do anything. It takes away the power, and you reclaim that power
yeah,
because
100%.
there's nothing to hide.
Yeah, no one can use
Well,
it
thanks for
against.
having me on here, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Randy, thank you so much. I
You bet.
really appreciate it, and thank you even for checking with me this morning at the gym. I
Yeah,
really thought things was all set, and yeah, just thank you for being there. I really do appreciate it so much, and
yeah. My
I
pleasure.
appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate your friendship. I feel blessed all the time for the people that God has put in my life. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
we haven't really gone out and done anything. We haven't gone hiking together, which we definitely need to do this summer, this spring, and
absolutely. Yeah,
get out there. And however, there are still certain people that are in my life that I can still consider good friends, because it doesn't matter if we just only talk for a few minutes at the gym. I know you're
yep,
someone that I can talk to and get the energy that I'm looking for, right?
yeah, yeah. We're
So
hanging
thank
out at the same vibration.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you very
Yep,
much.
you
Well,
bet.
guys,
Thank you.
again, thank you to all our guests, all our listeners. I say this at the end of every show, and I probably will continue to say this at every show. It's because of you guys that are making this all possible. I mean, seriously, you guys are the ones that's making it happen. And if you guys hear an episode that you really like and you know someone that could benefit from it, please like and share it. Please get it out there, and ask people to subscribe as well. We're coming up on 3 years in March. This show will be going for 3 years. I would have never ever thought we would have hit 3 years. And again, it's because of you guys and all our guests, that's making it happen. So, guys, remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.